you know, spend 40 grand or 12 grand or 15 grand or 30 grand, but there's no, I mean, what's the recourse of the town when the stove thing doesn't work?
Okay, so again, you're talking about this utopia, this fantasy land which doesn't
This
exist.
is how towns work.
So right now, when you go out there, the red light is on the lift station. The sewage is on the ground. The red light is on because it's overflowing. Why? What? Did the motor fail? Did the floats not work? Did the power switch on and off? Did we have a short?
I would expect that report to come back.
So that's not one vendor. One vendor doesn't control all of that. There isn't a vendor that's a lift station vendor. It doesn't work like that. So we go out and we try to, why is the sewage on the ground? Was it a power problem? Did the motor fail? Did somebody put wipes in there so the motor shorted because the windings are screwed up? We don't know why. So there's nobody can point the finger to and say, you know what, the sewage is on the ground and it overflowed in somebody's house because somebody did something wrong. The motor failed.
We're going over the same ground here.
Yeah. Okay, so I would like to be able to move forward with these projects. So we've already approved 65. I think 50 is a good number. I'm bringing you numbers. So I'd like to be able to get on with getting that stuff done. So that's my objective. So I'd like a motion to approve the capital expense projects for 2018.
I'll make a motion to approve the projects we were discussing for 2019.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. All right, very good. Next up, we are, where are we? Okay, budget amendment. All right, excellent. Number 7, lucky number 7. Okay, so what this is our budget. Okay, so one of the things that we have here is, you give me my razor, Brenda?
I can't find it, I'm sorry.
It's so much easier. I don't have a razor. Oh. Yeah. Okay, so one of the things when I do the budget each year is the reason why. So if you were to look at our financial report, what you'll see is the auditor is actually going to take this entire thing, if you scroll all the way down, he's going to put that into like 5 lines. So for financial accounting purposes, this whole thing goes into just 5 numbers. Because the auditor doesn't care about individual categories. So what he cares about is bigger categories. So he doesn't care about the individual lines. So if you look at this thing, for instance, right here, so one of the things you'll notice is that, sorry, I don't have a laser. So you'll notice right here, we have town hall. This is renting town hall. It's $100. We budget $100 in revenue for somebody renting town hall. Now, why do I do that? It's like 10,000th of 1%. Why would we budget? Why would we actually have a line for only $100? Why would we do that?
Understand if it's actually being written.
Yeah, the reason why is because we don't have the ability to track things. If you said how many times in the last 5 years has City Hall been rented, we don't have that anywhere. We use the accounting system to keep track of that. So for instance, can you scroll up? The auditor is just, it'd be so much easier for Linda if she just said permits. And go into QuickBooks and type in the word permits. And just use the permit word. Why do we bother tracking fences, from sprinklers, from plumbing, from electrical, from pools? Why do we do that? It's not for forecasting. It's not just so we can sit there and look at these. Because who cares? Look, fence permits were over. Sprinkler were over. Here we are up. Pool permits were under. None of these add up individually lines. We're not going to do a budget amendment because we got an extra pool. These are tiny little numbers. Why do I put them there? Again, the reason why is so we can go back and look and see how many fence permits did we have. Here you weren't paying the fees, right? Well, how much? What's the hit? So in order to make decisions like that, right now we're evaluating whether or not we should change the HVAC permit. And looking at flat looks. Should flat look be 2 or 1? So a lot of these individual lines, they're not here for budget. They're here because we're tracking things. So if you look at the actual numbers of our day-to-day operations for the city, it turns out that our basic operations, we took in Yeah, 427,000 is what we took in. You scroll down a bit quick. Oh, up, there you go. Up a little bit more. Okay, so from continuing operations, we budgeted 413. We actually took in 427. So we took in 3.5% more than what we budgeted. 3.5% more than the plan. After that, we have what are called basically non-reoccurring items. So we separate out things that are one-of-a-kind things. These are just things that we hope maybe will happen, maybe they won't happen, but they're not planning purposes. So one of the key ones there is code enforcement. I never put any money in code enforcement because I don't want to budget for fining people. That's counterproductive. I hope that that line is always a zero. I don't want to fine anyone. So all of the code enforcement and the court fines and all that, we leave those as a zero in the budget because they're not repetitive, you can't forecast them, we just don't bother keeping them in there. Lien receipts only happen when somebody sells a property. Somebody sells it, we find out we got liens from 10 years ago or 5, whatever, then we get money. You can't bank on it. Some years we get some liens, some years we get no liens. It's a non-reoccurring item. Of course, we sold a lot. We have a law, or we have a payment for the roof, which we turned around and paid back out again. And then we have reimbursements. So one of the things that goes on in here is there's a lot of money where we get reimbursed because we keep the funds separate. So when we do things, the funds have to square up. So when they do the mowing, we get one mowing bill. So there's one mowing contract that's with the city, but yet they're mowing the utility fund and they're mowing MDD. So there's things where we get reimbursed. So those are reimbursements because those are things the city paid. We paid those on behalf of somebody else, and then they've given us the money. So if we did something, if we paid a bill and the MDD reimburses us $20,000 next year, you don't put that into revenue for the city. That's an in-out. We're just a conduit to pay it back out again. So that's not our core operations. So the core was 413 is what we budgeted. Our core revenues are 427. So that looks good there. So if you scroll down then to the continuing general fund expenses, again, some are high, some are low. If you looked up there, if you look up, can you scroll up a little bit quick? So for instance, you look at the individual lines. Building inspections is higher. It was 18. It's higher by 5,000. Yeah, because the permit fees were higher. The permit fees are higher by 7,000. Well, if the permit fees are higher, we got to pay the building inspector. Those go in hand, lockstep. Playground was only 2 instead of 12. You look down here. Continuing education went from 500 to 2140. Okay. Why did that happen? Why did that continuing education go from 500 to 2140? You know why it happened?
I got elected and I went.
Because you went to TML. And I'm not saying that's a negative. I'm saying, who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew that you were going to get elected and want to go to the TML, not faculty, new council member orientation? Who knew? So, but that's fine. That line is a little high. Well, guess what? Look right above it. Town functions is below budget. Right? Town functions is only 1,400. So when you look at our day-to-day operations, we had 200 is what the continuing operations what we budgeted for. We came in at 224. Okay? So we came in at 224. We were a little higher, but we were high by 24,000. And if you look at the revenue side, we were higher by 14. We were higher by 14. So not a big difference. Pretty much right about where we need to be, again, for budgeting. So if you look at those numbers then, our operational revenues were, from basic operations, were 427. Our expenses were 224. We had a $200,000 surplus. We have a $200,000 surplus this last year in the general fund. If you exclude the non-recurring weirdness, we had a $200,000 surplus. That's our operating surplus. From that, we have to make the bond payment. That's why last year was such a great year, because we're finally over the hump. We have a bigger surplus than the bond payment. So now we're aggregating money. Now, again, you have non-reoccurring stuff. You have non-reoccurring, things that we don't count. We've got to do abatement. I don't want to mow anybody's yard. I hope that's a zero every year. But we can't count on it. It's nothing you can do. The $27,000 was the insurance settlement. And then we had this unfortunate contingency claim out of the lawsuit, which was 43. Okay? So those are all the non-reoccurring numbers. So if you look at the big picture, then everything is fine. If you look at the little picture with the basic continuing operations, we had a $203,000 surplus. Everything looks very good to me. I see everything looking good.
So Mayor, come on.
Yeah.
The law is clear. Section 102.009. I've read it 5 times so far. Okay. At the final approval of the budget, the governing body may spend municipal funds only in strict compliance with the budget.
Yep.
If we budgeted a certain amount for building maintenance,
Yep.
you can't go over that until you come back and say, hey, I want to go over budget, here's the reason, here's the estimate, this is the reason why, and then the council votes on it.
So according to you,
No, it's not according to me, I'm just reading the text here, right? So when you take a look at legal fees, we've gone way over. If we take a look at maintenance or even, pick any line go, you can't spend it. In other words, you don't have the authority to write those checks. You have to ask the council for approval to go over the budget. That's where it works.
okay, can I talk now? Okay.
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, those categories that we have here are categories that I created. I'm the one that tracks the categories. So what's not in there is all the reimbursements. So I can put in there the reimbursements, and most of those categories will be under.
Really?
Yes,
Okay, so
because we get reimbursed.
why don't
We
you
get
show us-
reimbursed for a lot of these things.
So we've asked for the detail. It's been 4 months. Why don't you show us the detail of where all these numbers magically go under budget?
There's all of these interconnected things that are going on. There's things that happen because of utility fund. There's things that happen because of MPD. There's things that happen because of the city. So we keep all of those things separate. We keep the reimbursements separate. So these are the
I thought you said they
lines.
were combined.
They're combined. Those are right there separate, and then we combine them into different reimbursement fees. That's what happens with the utility fund and with the MPD. So, I mean,
Mark.
again, the issue here when we're looking at the budget, this is the budget. We are off by 3%. We are not going to do a budget amendment because we get an extra pool permit. We're not going to do, if you scroll to the top, on the expenses, you know, if we have pet, okay, what was it? Where is it? Where is the,
Pick any one that's over.
okay, where is the,
So I have a question while you're looking at that. The law, as you are reading it, does it really imply line by line?
Yes.
Where does it say line by line?
It says according to the budget, so whatever way you do your budget, you have to adhere to it.
I don't know that I would agree with that.
Well, it's,
because the easiest, think about what we could do then. Okay, I can give you a budget which matches what the financial, what the auditor's going to do. So I can give you a budget that has 5 lines.
And that's what we ought to operate on.
The auditor is going to take this entire thing here and he's going to roll it into administrative fees, public safety,
Categories.
and he's got 4 categories. That entire thing there. Now again, the reason why I break it down into all these categories isn't for budgeting, it's for tracking. We don't have the ability to track these kinds of things. So, especially when we get to the utility fund,
Semantics, or we have the ability, you're using the
So-
accounting system.
I mean, the
Right.
budget that I've written and that I'm familiar with, you have categories, and under the categories, you have line items.
right, so the question is, like you talked to them in Corinth, I guarantee you they do not have individual line items for postage and for individual line items for electricity for each individual building that they own. She even told you, no, we have categories, like payroll, right? Public safety. Those are the budgets. Now, underneath them are subsidiaries
Exactly.
because you want to, like I can't say to you,
Exactly.
here's a budget,
So-
administrative costs are,
So subsidiaries, line items,
but that's, again, it's semantic. If I say to you, public safety, okay, $45,000. And then I say, here's how I got that number. Fire EMS is this much, so much is that much, fire hydrant, whatever, this is this. here are the 6 numbers.
The back.
That's exactly what the auditor does, and comes up with that number. I can do that. We've never had anybody be so hung up on things like animal control, $100 line, to say, you have to go budget amendment, because
Well, it's not
we have
realistic.
$2.
Let's be honest. How many lines do we have in the
Over
budget? 100.
Yeah.
And what Dan is suggesting is that, I guess, every time that, at any point during the budget cycle, that we go over the budget, that we would put
Stop
that
spending.
issue
Stop.
before the
No,
council
before you
and
go-
approve it or disprove it.
Just a correction, before you go over budget,
It's-
you ask your.
Okay, that's a fine line, for God's sakes.
But so,
It's ridiculous. I don't buy his interpretation of the law at all. Have we gotten a legal
no,
opinion?
because it doesn't, look, it doesn't matter.
We did. The TML responded.
Okay,
So
so,
everybody's aware. The TML said, yep, you follow your budget according to it. You gotta be very careful.
Did it say line by line?
It said line by line.
I'd like to see that response.
And you know what?
okay,
Like
let's
to see it.
get,
Show me after me.
let's get back on point.
Where's this heading?
Okay, so here's where we're going.
Maybe we
Alright,
should
so-
take a look at Corinne's budget. You just called them out for not having lines such as
All right, so
water fees,
what I want
cars,
Dan,
utilities.
You're talking,
training.
come on, let's
Dan,
go.
please
Well,
hold on.
let's
Dan,
pull
hold on,
up,
we're talking
let's
about
pull
our
up
budget.
Corinne's budget and
No,
let's see.
Dan,
Matter of fact, you know
I don't
what?
want to talk about
Dan,
Rick's budget.
Dan, hold on, hold on. Okay, so let's talk now about the utility fund. So if you look at the utility fund, here are the numbers. Again, these are the budgeted numbers versus what we hit here. So we're about 3.5% ahead, so we're about 12,000. We ended up 12,000 ahead on the actuals for the utility fund. 3.5%, pretty good. I can't forecast the weather, but you know, the water,
Pretty close.
sewer, pretty close. All right, now if you scroll down to to again, our continuing operations, it turns out that we are, if you scroll down a little more, Clint, we spent $265,000 instead of $225,000. We're $40,000 over on our utility fund expenses, our day-to-day operations. So our operating surplus we budgeted was to make about $95,000 in surplus. We ended up only with a $65,000 budget surplus for the utility fund. Now, why did we have $40,000 over? Fair question. 30,000 of that is because of all the sewer repairs. We had 2 massive big breaks. We had the huge break on High Ridge. And the problem is when the main breaks, the closer you are to the wastewater plant, the deeper it is, which means we had to bring in the giant excavator. It was huge.
Like 20 feet deep or something?
Yeah, it was 18 to 20 feet deep, which now you need to bring in OSHA, and you have to have ditch boxes. You got to do it safe. So we spent a lot of money on that. And then we had it again. We had a second big repair over on Peninsula. When we had the excavator here to do those big repairs, we went ahead and did some of the CapEx because we had the excavator anyway. So that's what we do. We have to rent equipment. We go ahead, because it's rented for the week, we turn around and use it for other jobs. So if you look at, for instance, some of these things, electricity on the water and electricity on the sewer. So for instance, you might ask, why do I bother splitting up the water and the sewer for electricity? The reason why is because for the sewer, we made some improvements down at the sewer plant. I worked with them when we did some re-engineering down there. We started putting the blowers on timers. We started using high-efficiency air drops. We wanted to see if that would affect the electricity cost. It should have, and this is now, I'm able to track that. On the water, why did the water go up? Well, we pump more water. The second thing is probably because we run heaters in the winter. I don't know about the weather, but so that was the, but I don't do that for budgeting. I do it so we can go back later and see what's the water and what's the sewer costing us. So for instance, you can see
The water, we shut a well down in the winter too, right? So it's part of the energy audit, trying to make sure that we do.
we try and see if that makes sense. So on chemicals for the water, we're low. On chemicals for the sewer, we're high. Why? Because we ran out of the cylinders. The chlorine ran out. When the cylinder empties, we replace it. We don't know when they're going to empty. If they empty, if we do 6 cylinders, we use 6. So everything kind of ends up balancing it out here. So most of the little things. Water equipment, why is that higher than normal? We had to go out and buy meters, we ran out. We had to go out and buy meters, meter boxes, We needed to buy some more equipment for the water stuff.
So who made that decision?
That's what happens.
Who made the decision to go over budget? That's all I'm asking.
So that's what we do.
I'm sorry.
So we have to go ahead and
So-
these are the individual items that why we track them individually. So for
Gary,
instance,
can I ask Gary a question?
no, I'm not done yet. I'm not
You've
done
been
yet.
going on here saying the same thing. for a
Okay, so
while.
let me get finished. Okay, so
Thank you.
give me 2 minutes. So
Yeah.
on the sewer, on the labs, see the labs are 50. Why are the sewer labs higher than mine? Well, because we had to do a T-clip. Because every so often, they won't take our sludge, and we have to do a special test. Because they won't take the sludge, so you get a T-clip done. We have to do that periodically, every now and then. We don't know when that's going to happen.
That's a random one.
It's a random event we have to do. Could you scroll up just a little bit more, Clint? Okay. You scroll up a little bit more? Okay. Look up there, okay? Postage. Why in the world are we tracking postage when it's only $1,000? The reason why we do that is because in muni billing, you can now get your bill electronically. You can get electronic bills, so we don't have to mail it. So one of the things I wanted to track was to be able to figure out how much money we're saving by not having to mail out bills. I get my bill in an email. Well, you don't know that unless you track the postage. So you got to be able to know what you're spending on postage to figure that out. So again, a lot of the improvements we're doing, the continuous improvements, you got to have the raw data. So that's why we have all these lines, is to help with the improvement on running the stuff we're doing. That's the idea. Okay, Dan, go ahead.
So, Gary, can I just ask you a question? So, under water equipment, it's the one right there. It says water equipment budget $4,000, spent $11,377. My question is, who authorized to spend that money? That's all I'm asking. Who was authorized to spend that cash?
Why are you asking Gary?
Because he's next to me. I mean, the people on the council, we're the ones that authorize to spend. So we should all say,
Well, why don't you get plugged in so that you know the answer and you don't have
Plugged
to
in?
ask it
You
at
want-
a council
you
meeting?
want me to get plugged in to somebody
Yeah,
who
get
will
plugged
not-
into anything, Dan,
will
because you're not plugged into
You
anything.
will not stop spending, Ed. Who authorized that spend? It's all, how hard of a question is that? Who at this table
How hard is it to get
authorized to
plugged
spend
in?
the money?
Okay.
No, okay, what?
All right.
Elizabeth, did you authorize it? Ed, did you authorize? Who
I'm not
authorized
answering
that
your
money?
question.
So Dan, let me ask you
I'm
something.
trying to help you out.
No, you're not.
I'm
You're
trying
really
to
not
tell you,
helping
guys,
anybody out.
You cannot spend over the budget. You're breaking the law 26 times.
We heard this,
to do it.
how many times last
Dan,
meeting? Do we have to go
Dan,
through it
what-
again?
You just, Ed, you've got to
Okay.
stop.
All right, so here we are. This is what we spent.
I don't know what else to do, guys.
So the idea here is, now if you scroll down again, here's our capital improvements we did. Well, we budgeted $70,000, and what we did is we spent $70,000, spent $72,000. Part of the water improvements were,
That is not 72,000. Add that back up.
let me finish, Dan, you're interrupting me. So
Your
we
numbers are
budgeted
off. You're off by
70,000.
20 some
So we
thousand
spent
dollars.
$72,000 on the water and sewer improvements, which are what we talked about. And the $40,000 was to finish the ground storage tank, which we did. The sewer improvements, the $32,000 there, deals with the fact that that was unforeseen, but the blower motor failed. The blower motor went out. We had to go and replace the blower motor.
We have a lift station at the.
So yeah, that we did. That was part of our repairs. So the blower, one of the things that happened was the blower went out. That blower motor itself is $9,000 before we ended up putting in the electronics. So we had a blower motor fail. The other thing that happened was the clarifier broke. So when we redid the sewer plant, the one item that moves is the clarifier. Everything else is gravity fed. The clarifier ate itself. It broke. It actually hard failed. It broke. It's the thing that spins in a circle. That's gears, and it spins and it moves the water around, and then the water goes out the bottom back into the digester. That broke. We had to fix it. You cannot not fix that. You cannot wait for a council meeting to fix that. We cannot dump raw, untreated sewage into the lake. So we had to take the clarifier offline, and we had to get new gears, new housings, new sweep arm. We had to rebuild the clarifier, and that's part of that sewer improvement. That was unexpected. So drainage improvements were, when we had the giant excavator here, we had to do the big sewer repair onto Peninsula. We excavated a huge amount of area right in front of the culvert, because that's where the sewer main break was. When we got done excavating, we might as well fix the drainage there, because the drainage pipe was not working. So what we did is we put in the inlet because we had it there and we replaced the pipe. There was a huge pipe, you could almost walk in it on Peninsula, it was there.
And I
So
think the Deans have confirmed they've had zero flooding since that's.
no flooding since it happened. We have a nice, beautiful concrete inlet instead of a 5-foot tall steel corrugated pipe. So that was a target of opportunity where we knew we had a drainage problem, and we had a giant excavator 12 feet away. So that's what that was. The other capital improvements were the Woodcrest site prep. So when we had the giant excavator, we demolished the Woodcrest house. Now, the reason why we did that is we ordered the house demolished. The city council put out an order to demolish the house. We ended up acquiring the house, so we had to demolish the house. That's what we had to do. On the impact fees, you can see we budgeted $40,000. We only spent $37,000. That's why when we did the revision of the impact fees, Todd said we still have about $3,000 to go. We're under budget. That's why the impact fee revision doesn't cost us anything, because we're still under the task order. So that's what that was. And as far as the attorney impact fees, this is again is a reimbursement. The utility fund had to pay the attorney fees to the city because there were impact fee attorney fees. So the utility fund has to pay.
So the utility fund, what was the budget for their attorney fees then?
So
if they reimburse us, where's the budget for it, guys?
So that was the issue with the utility fund. Okay? So again, unfortunately, the repairs, there's nothing we can do about repairs.
There was something you can do about repairs.
We just have to make the repair. We've got to move on. Now, obviously, I know it's frustrating, Ed, but you cannot micromanage the day-to-day operations of the city. If something breaks, we fix it. I cannot wait for the one day a month where you guys decide it's okay to fix something, or you decide to take it.
The law covers
We have to go ahead and do these contingencies.
I have no problem.
So what I'd like to do then is, since this is the actuals, this is it, let's amend the budget, because these are the final numbers then.
Hold on, you're gonna-
and let's go ahead and amend the budget then to make the numbers line up with the real numbers, I guess. I don't know.
I'm going to plead to the council to realize what you're doing. 2 months after the year is over, you're going to change the budget numbers to match the actuals that were never approved. There's no invoices, there's no detail. We can't even find a single person up here that admits they spent the money. Do you understand how crazy that is? If you vote for this, and you're just covering up the action that was illegal in the first place.
There was
So
no
the last
illegal
thing you want to do is go on record as covering up an action that is clearly illegal. That's the last thing you want to do, and I will leave it at that.
Okay, our books are not closed. You don't close the books until several months.
Every month, you've been over for 6 months, you stop
We're
showing
still-
financials.
Yeah, it's
in
my
June.
turn to talk.
No, it's not your,
I let you
you're
stop.
dragging these guys down a road they don't even know they're on. This is the last thing you want to do is cover up.
I don't
this.
feel like I'm being dragged down the road.
Then Ed, then go along with it.
Okay,
I will.
so, all right, so
I'm good.
this is, so what I want to do is I want to basically approve the budget since, like I said, the operating budget, we're right on the money for the city, and unfortunately, we're over budget on the utility fund because of unforeseen repairs. There's
Just
nothing.
operating at less surplus.
So we ended up with, we're still operating a surplus, and we ended up with surplus, so. Anyway, so I'd like to get a motion to
I did
approve
everything
the
I could.
amended budget.
I did everything I could.
You're my hero.
Okay. Can I get a motion then? We ready to move on?
I'll motion to approve the budget amendment.
Okay, so a motion to approve the budget amendment, do I have a second? Second by Ed, all those in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay. All right, so that ends that. Executive session. I don't think we need to have an executive session. I think we're okay.
Best news on
Yeah, I don't think we need to do an executive session. So I think we're good there.
Motion to reconvene.
Okay, we're back at 8:37. Council and staff comments. Does anybody have a comment to make? Do you want to say anything about the parks? You don't wait too late.
Yeah,
I know you met once.
yeah, we met on the 30th.
Maybe for Halloween.
Yeah. We had to kind of skip September because,
Sweeney gave birth.
yeah, one of our key members was about to have a baby. And so we had to give her, some time and some space. And she contacted us on the 30th, and we met briefly, just me and her. And so we're trying to piggyback off of, what's his name, Bill, my neighbor, when he, is it Mike? I'm sorry. Mike. I was trying to look up his name
Yeah,
before I
Mike.
said it.
Oh,
Mike
I
Ball.
was supposed to scroll into
I know, I
that.
was trying to scroll up.
He's gone, so you're okay.
Okay, sorry. When he pours the slab for the new house so that we can also take advantage of pouring the slab for the half-court basketball court. But there are items that Rick kind of brought to our attention, which was the lighting. And also, if we're going to pour the slab, we need to also put the in-ground poles for the basketball hoop. We might as well do it at the same time. So those are things that we need to go ahead and consider as far as expense and bring back to the council on this is what it's going to cost totally, and this is going to be the first phase and second phase to that.
Question, the basketball goals, have you guys talked about whether they would be permanent 10-foot goals or just?
We haven't talked about that. I did talk about not having it made glass, because I think that's a liability, and carbonate, polycarbonate is what we're looking at. Could be adjustable.
They're saying we've got lots of different sizes.
Yes, there's a lot.
You just want a dark.
I printed a lot of, I printed a lot of the things I looked up, but then I came here and then there were some catalogs. Would have saved me a lot of printing paper and ink. But, and then I also looked at, the dark sky and this light fixture is probably the one that they recommend for like outdoor kind of commercial. And we would only need 2.
Why don't you and I get together and
Yeah.
just validate that is dark sky?
This I got from their website.
Oh, well, then I'm sure it's good. Yeah, should be.
So I already told I called 5 electricians. I've talked to 2 of them so far, but that's all in the last 3 days. And this is what I told them that we wanted. And they didn't even know what the Dark Sky Initiative was. I had to kind of school them on that.
A lot of people don't know that, don't follow that.
Okay.
As far as the Finance and Audit Committee, we did go out and meet with Leanne and City of Corinth Finance Director. Very gracious, gave us a lot of information. We had a one-on-one meeting with her because they had postponed or I guess canceled their quarterly meeting because they're going through their audit as well.
Their website was out of date, sucker.
Yeah.
That's right. We got a better time with her, I think.
Yes, we did. We were able, there was 3 citizens that were there with me and Clint.